The modern right to self-determination is grounded in secular, evidence-based principles. Territorial rights derive from a combination of factors, including a people's continuous presence and cultural attachment to the land, supported by either the exercise of effective authority or the collective recognition of customary land tenure. By these standards, Zionism stands as a historical anomaly. It asserts that people with no recent presence or legal connection to a land have a birthright to it, based solely on ancient religious texts and an assumed genealogical connection from 2 millennia ago. Many countries offer citizenship by descent, but only with a verifiable paper trail. One cannot claim Irish or Italian citizenship based on a 2,000-year-old religious connection. Yet, this is precisely what Zionism demands, not just the right to immigrate, but the right to establish exclusive sovereignty over Palestine at the expense of the indigenous population that never left. If any other group asserted a right to land based on such ancient and tenuous ties, the claim would be dismissed without a second thought. Zionism began in the 19th century as a European nationalist movement, but unlike Polish or Irish nationalism, which sought independence for people in their native homeland, Zionism aimed to build a nation-state in a land where its founders' ancestors had not lived for thousands of years, and where it constituted a tiny minority of the population. This created a zero-sum dynamic from the start. A Jewish majority state could not be created in a non-Jewish majority land without fundamentally altering its demographics. As early Zionist leader Ze'ev Jabotinsky bluntly admitted, Zionist colonization, even the most restricted, must either be terminated or carried out in defiance of the will of the native population. To justify this radical project, Zionism constructed an origin story, a myth in which all Jews lived in Judea until the Romans violently expelled them in a single cataclysmic event. As Shlomo Sands describes it, national mythology determined that the Jews, banished, deported, or fugitive emigrants, were driven into a long and dolorous exile, causing them to wander over lands and seas to the far corners of the earth, until the advent of Zionism prompted them to turn around and return en masse to their orphaned homeland. Archaeology and historical records tell a very different story. The Jewish diaspora wasn't a single event, but a continuous process, driven more by commerce and opportunity than by persecution. When the Romans arrived, there were already as many Jews living outside of Judea as within it. Jewish merchants, scholars, and artisans had established permanent, thriving communities in every major commercial hub and important city along the trade routes opened up by the Greeks. As classicist and historian Eric Gruen notes, compulsory dislocation cannot have accounted for more than a fraction of the diaspora. Many Jews left looking for better economic opportunities with no plan to return. Many Jews never left, and their descendants adopted different religions and languages over the centuries. Even after the destruction of Jerusalem and the brutal reprisals that followed the Jewish-Roman wars, a large Jewish presence remained in Palestine. Meanwhile, diaspora communities like the one in Babylon grew into major centers of Jewish learning and culture, at times eclipsing Judea itself. Their descendants made Baghdad the city with the highest proportion of Jews in the world. In 1910, Jews were 40% of Baghdad's population. A documentary about Iraqi Jews noted, the Iraqi Jews had until that point been largely indifferent to Zionism. Early Zionism mostly concentrated on the Jews of Europe, ignoring the Iraqi, indeed all Sephardi Jews. The indifference was mutual. Iraqis were not interested in the agricultural ideals of the settlers, and the Ashkenazi, European Jews were snobbish about Jews from the Middle East. If a return from exile was a long-held dream, history shows little evidence of it. For 4 centuries under Ottoman rule, there was nothing preventing the 300,000 Ottoman Jews from returning to Palestine. Yet the Jewish population of Palestine remained minuscule, less than 15,000 in 1850. Palestine offered fewer economic opportunities than cities like Istanbul, Izmir, or Salonika, which is why only 3% of the Jews in the Ottoman Empire chose to live there. What about the European Jews? In the early 1900s, millions were leaving Europe, but they weren't heading to Palestine. They were heading west. Zionists promised a Jewish state that would offer security and opportunity. But judging by the numbers, most Jews believed America was far more likely to deliver. The contrast is stark. Over 2 million went to the Americas. Fewer than 45,000, about 2%, chose Palestine. Nothing about the Zionist claim to birthright holds up under scrutiny. Yes, Jews everywhere have a deep religious and ancestral connection to the land of Israel. That bond is real and meaningful. But turning a spiritual connection and ancient lineage into a legal claim to sovereignty, 2,000 years later, and over the heads of those who never left, is without precedent. And it should never have been justified under international law. Palestinians, as the people who remained, deserve what all indigenous peoples deserve: the right to self-determination on their land. Thanks for watching. Please hit the like and subscribe buttons if you would like to see more content like this.